Okay, so we're just gonna go over GBPUSD, what I see for the weeks ahead, and what position I might get into depending on what price it does. So what I have right now, I'm just here on monthly time frame, just on the largest time frame that I usually go at. So looking at GU, I'm just looking at the main point where we actually took out this very specific low right here. That's where the entire upward thrust actually started from. When we took out that liquidity, we purged that low, we then saw reverse to the upside, and that has been the cause for the recent weeks of bullish momentum in the market. But coming into this, we're still going to be very aware that we are still continuing this bearish structure. And what I would like to highlight is that we have come into the premium of this actual range. As you can see right here, we actually tapped, we wicked the 0.705 level, and then we started reversing from there, creating some bearish momentum, breaking this low, and now just reversing back into this order block right over here, and now starting to push off of it. So my buys right now, so what I'm looking at is more of selling opportunities just based on what I'm seeing on the monthly time frame, but when I have to dive down lower to actually solidify any expectations I might have for the following weeks. When I get on to the weekly time frame, I'm actually just mainly drawn to this weekly zone right over here. Perfectly aligns with the premium zone right over here, perfectly aligns there, and price showed this reaction very much aggressively. And now we just retrace off of this demand zone, coming back into this supply zone. And I'm actually looking forward for price to actually keep on dropping down lower. My bias previously was sort of bullish on the micro time frame, but now looking at the micro time frame, it kind of switched because of all this confidence I'm seeing to the downside. There could be some bullish sentiment. However, right now my sentiment is bearish for the time being. Okay, then weekly time frame, we can actually get into this more in depth. Okay, so now looking at this GBPUSD daily time frame, we also come into the premium of this leg right here, from this high to this low, that also broke this specific demand zone. You can see here, price failed the demand zone from both over here and even more in the earlier stages. It sort of got people induced into buying right over here with these wicks, and then it dropped down low. So seeing the break of two demand blocks indicates to me that we are having a bearish sentiment now. Instead of just seeing it as a sort of liquidation of a low, I've switched to now seeing it as price is breaking legs, breaking bullish structure, now switching over to bearish structure. So I can take that, I can see what the market presents to me, and I can follow through and actually look for selling opportunities. And as I will say before, my bias was sort of bullish because I was actually just looking at this main leg here on the daily time frame, but then I actually zoomed out and saw the entire thing. I started to realize that we could have potential sellers from here, especially from this reaction. We were consolidating for quite a while on GBPUSD. That's why I was really interested in the positions. But now they've made this push to the downside, it's sort of showing me that it is confirming that bearishness. And I'm completely drawn to this daily supply zone right here. I hope to see price come back here. But we'll see if price comes here. But we'll see now. I'm gonna wait for price to sort of break this low. Once it breaks that low, I would like to see price start to maybe just chase for one of these other demand zones to sort of come back into that supply zone, right? There has to be two sides of the market working antagonistically. The demand pushing to supply and the supply pushing to demand, that sort of thing happening, right? So right now I'm looking at one of these demand zones to sort of be that upward thrust into that supply zone. If not, I still wouldn't be really involved in any of the bullish moves right now that lead to this. So I'm mainly just being patient for price to come back here. Or we could just end up just completely expand, maybe doing a short-term high and then breaking down lower, breaking off that high, then completely. That's usually what happens with these very strong risk move. Price really gets the opportunity to make a full retracement back up. So I will also be watching the leg, what the leg is actually printing, what this bearish leg is printing, to see if that temporary high is created, and to see if there is that sort of purge of that inducement high into some other area of interest to then push price back down. That's what I'll also be looking out for, that sort of scenario happening. So right now, yeah, that's what I have right here. But I'm also very interested in this fair value gap right here. I do see price coming into this area based on the market, but overall, as I said, I am bearish for the entire sentiment. I do see price breaking this low and even coming down to this low. I start to get wary of bullishness when we start entering areas like this. And this is me talking long term. I'd be more interested in price actually comes into here, because this is actually the lowest point that GBPUSD has actually reached. This is the lowest point right here. So I would be interested in seeing how price reacts upon the zone. But from here on, mainly I'd want to look at sell positions just because of what the market is showing me. It's showing me bearishness. Looking at the bullish side, there is bullishness that can be presented. Maybe seeing from that price broke this high, creating a breaker structure, right? Created this false break structure, which then led into being an inducement, price breaking that inducement, and then pushing over the zone. Price could most definitely come into any lower demand zones here, okay, lower demand zones or any of this fair value gap, and start pushing over that, breaking the sentiment. Because then again, also remember, this consolidation did create liquidity that price could seek to purge and then push it upside, or coming back to zones like this that were not tapped, right? And then maybe continuing. These are just scenarios I'm building out that price could end up leading to, right? So as I said, there is still stands for bullishness. However, that to be only when price maybe comes into these lower levels. But that's where I stand with GBPUSD right now. If I have to look at the DXY to see any confirmation, so this is how this actually works out. This is the negative correlation between GBPUSD and the DXY actually works. If the DXY is pushing to the upside, and then we'd expect the British pound to start moving to the downside. That's how they work antagonistically. So DXY goes up, GBPUSD goes down. Yeah, okay, that sort of thing. And this would be the same for any other pair that has USD as the minor latter part. Looking at DXY from a long-term perspective, I'll say it is sort of bearish. Just looking at these zones that price could have come to. As it's just retracing from this breaker block right here. Okay, and actually I can't actually confirm this is a break block because it didn't actually fully purge this high. I'll just take off as this gap here. There we go. Price moving for that right now. But what I want to see for me to actually start looking for sales fully long term on GBPUSD is for an opportunity for the DXY to be pushing upwards. And that will only be presented to me when price sort of starts coming to, areas just like this. See these type of demand zones. This area also is quite interesting. And in terms of the leg, where we at? Okay, so we're still dwindling around the equilibrium of this actual area. But yeah, these are what I would be interested in, very much so in the premium. And then it'd be following that the most recent bullishness that has been followed on the DXY, price breaking continuous highs, and now most recently coming to this low, pushing off that demand, and now creating this retracement that we are presented right now. I'd love to see some sort of reaction that would push price downwards into these areas, pushing it back up. Okay, that's what I'd like to see on the DXY, and having that push up would then cause the British pound to start moving to the downside, which would align with our sentiment, with my sentiment of bearishness on the British pound. And if we can just further extend on this point, we can look at the BXY now. And now this is positive correlation. If the BXY is moving downwards, then GBPUSD will also start moving downwards. That's how the correlation sort of works. And now this is very interesting. Because I must push up. Oh yeah. So right now it's sort of the same thing, right? I see that we've also just pushed off of this supply, right? And it is also part of the most recent leg, the most recent push to the downside. It is also within the premium. Moving forward from that, we can see it's a very similar setup being shown to us on the BXY. Why? Because it's directly correlated to the British pound versus the dollar. All right, so yeah, so a very interesting price action right here. Price coming once again into the supply zones, pushing off of them, and then it's showing that these legs that were bullish, they could act as liquidity for when you start pushing to the downside. So what we're seeing right now is a lot of confidence is coming into play. So that would give me a bit more confidence in my sell buys, and then further on, I'll be looking at EURUSD for even more confirmation, right? Let's go to a clean chart. Forex.com, whatever. Okay. Yeah, also EURUSD weekly point of view, it is looking quite bearish. I mean, I'm just looking straight off of the most recent lows being broken, right? This low is broken, this low is broken. That to me is confirming bearishness. Looking at where we are in terms of price ranges. Then again, we did come into one of the premium zones. We came into the 62 level, and then price started moving off of that. Aligned with that, we also have this supply zone, right? So a lot of stuff are aligning, and then further on, the supply zone, because price broke both these lows. And I want to reiterate the fact that the reason why I'm saying both these lows, because usually a lot of the times we've seen the pattern where it's sort of, we have that initial change of character, right? And then we expect price to usually move off that supply zone. But in most times, that's not the case. Price sort of pushes there and then completely knocks us out, right? It's part of the game, right? Lots of part of the game. But I'd also look for ways to optimize this. So one thing I actually practiced was actually, instead of just waiting for the first low to be broken, I also wait and see if the second low is broken. Because in another opposite world from someone else's screen, they will be looking at this as a demand zone for potential to the buy to the upside, right? And then they would win, because this would then be that inducement low, right? So instead of just waiting for one low to be broken, you could actually end up waiting for two to be broken. So price breaking through this, price comes in here and breaks through that, both these lows, breaks through both those lows. Another confirmation would be price breaking aggressively, showing that impulsiveness. That would also confirm a possible change in price direction, right? And then price coming into there, and then there's a high probability of price then moving off any supply zone, or on the flip side, any demand zones that would be for that initial setup. So that's just something I wanted to share with you guys. Just something else that you could add to maybe a confirmation list. That's something I sort of just practiced and tested when I was just kind of testing in December and October. So now, as you can see, we get that. So yeah, I'm quite confident in looking for sells, right, on USD also. I'm actually really drawn to these candles that have these long wicks, because that showed me rejection. That also shows me that liquidity has been taken. Because usually with liquidity, if price is looking to take out liquidity, it's a quick move, purging that liquidity, and then a quick reversal. That's how price usually takes out other stop losses, right? It's a quick move up and then takes them out. So I'm drawn to these type of candles, especially when it's going above highs like this, you see. So I'm drawn to that, and right now, recently, we might actually end up breaking this low. And then yes, I would also then look for this as potential targets, if we want to end up continuing this. Then again, there is also some fair value gaps and fair value gaps / imbalances, voids, whatever you guys call it, that is left unmitigated. So that but it's high probability that it will end up being filled later on the market. So that can be seen as our targets, right? So that's so then again also GBPUSD and EURUSD, they move very similarly, and that is the reason also why I also added that as a confirmation for me to look for SMT divergences on USD and GBPUSD. Actually dive into that later on, but it's because they move so similar. It's like how they use, like how the S&P and Nasdaq 100 they usually use those for like SMT divergences. It's because they move similar to another. So you can see I'm not just using what I see on one chart alone. I'm using different charts to sort of back up my initial understanding and my initial bias on the market. So right now, what I'm seeing is bearish, but then again, I cannot be fully on one side. I also have to look at what could be possibly happening on the other side, because in this market, it's buy and sell. So looking on the buy side, I do see that we do have right now in this most internal range from right here, we do have discounted levels, right? We do have discounted demands right here that were produced from price coming from these zones right over here. But then again, this doesn't intrigue me as much, because then again, this zone was tested 1, 2, then a third time. So it's very likely that it would start to add as liquidity. So that wouldn't be the best zone to look at. But the best sort of buy side zones I'll be looking at is really within these lower zones, these zones that have not been touched, right? There's been a lot of price action moving around here, a lot of mitigation demand zones, but mitigation demand zones does not happen around these areas, right? So zones like this would be of interest to me. Zones of this would be of interest to me. Okay. But then that again comes with price having to retrace into that. And that comes from sell opportunities. So we could still capitalize on when prices come into these demand zones, these potential demand zones that price could push off. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing sort of on the GBPUSD, even more so with EURUSD. Right now, very interesting zones. If I had to look to find a way to continue with this would have to be the most recent zone. Impulsive move to the downside, left that value gap there. The uttermost zone of the most recent price leg, the extreme, and price is just impulsively moving to that downside, breaking that low. And I'll have to see stuff like that, because that will then also show me once again that the institutions or the algorithms, they are in play. Because for you to drop price like this, you need a heavy amount of money. It doesn't just happen off random. So I love to see stuff like that, because that's where I want to be entering. That's where I want to look for entries. So I'll be definitely looking at this in the future. It's definitely going to take some time. Usually with these very impulsive moves to the downside, it doesn't immediately retrace back up, right? It's sort of, as I said, sometimes you create that temporary high and then price takes out that temporary high and then continues. Or in some cases, maybe just completely retrace it back up there and moves down. Or the other scenario that I've seen, that price comes there slowly. Before coming there, it starts giving you those signs that yes, it hasn't touched the zone, but it might end up, just moving without touching that zone. That's sort of very, that's where you kind of just take tags on your patience. Tags on your patience. You're like, okay, it got close to my zone. It looks like it's showing momentum to the downside, and then what happens is this ends up getting swept out, access liquidity, and then price starts to move downward, right? So those are the scenarios. I just see this from how many times, from my years of being in the market. These type of scenarios happen to me when I'm looking at supplies, when I'm looking at demands, So yeah, those are scenarios I have that with how price could approach this, or it could just most certainly just drive for not even return back. Okay, but that's part of the game. It's okay, but that is what we have for now. We cannot predict the market. We don't know what the market's going to do. All we can do is set areas where we'll be looking at, because that we can control. When price comes into those areas, then we'll act upon it. Then we'll look at, okay, what other criteria does it meet? Has it met all the other criteria? Has it met the terms and conditions of me actually getting into the trade? All the other extremities. But that's what I have right now. EURUSD and GBPUSD. I've gone through the higher time frame, and I've gone through the correlations of the DXY and the BXY, and I've also gone through a pair that moves very similar to GBPUSD as more confirmation. So that's how I want you guys also to approach your trade ideas. Don't just take it off of one or two confluences. Okay, yes, structure is important, yes, liquidity is important, but there are other factors that could produce this premium discount zones. Why is the price here? Remember, you are still in the currency market, so pricing is important. People want to be selling at higher prices, and people want to be buying at low prices. Keep that fundamental understanding. Don't let yourself get swayed by all these new concepts coming, ICT, this, SMC, this other concept, this other concept. Stick to the basics and truly master that.